Hello, happy weekend. Nice to be here with you all today. For those of you who might be new to my space, I am Jenny Glick. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sex therapist. But in this space here with you all, I'm a mentor. And what that means is I help women move from point A to point B. And so I work exclusively with women, and usually they show up with me in a place where they're stuck. And they're tired of being stuck, and they're tired of doing the same thing over and over and over again, and they're ready to move from point A to point B, and that's what we do. Today I want to talk to you about this concept and idea that might be radical for you, depending on how long you've been hanging out in my space. And I want to offer it to you for you to really consider it when you're having conflict in your relationship, whether that's in a marriage, whether that's a relationship with a parent or a child, a teenager, whomever it might be. So what if, rather than the conflict was happening to you, what if it was happening for you? Okay, so if I show up in my relationship, whatever the situation is, and if I show up believing that whatever's going on is happening to me, it's happening to me. My partner is doing this and it's coming to me. I am going to show up like a victim. I'm going to show up like I don't have any choice. I'm probably going to show up in a posture that is more defended, shut down, ready to fight, that defensiveness coming because it's happening to me, which probably means I believe it should not be happening. And if I believe it should not be happening, I'm not in a state of acceptance, which means I'm in some sort of non-acceptance, which will feel like a tug of war. It will feel like a push-pull, right? So for those of you who are just joining, we're talking about the difference between having the experience that something is happening to me or it's happening for me. And my perspective in doing this work, and some of you maybe see this in the banners and some of the things that I write, is that your relationship, your marriage is your ashram. Your children are your ashram. Right now, we're living in an ashram of our world. And what that means is that this is a place for us to grow, to develop, to transform, to evolve, and it's not easy. And there's function in it not being easy, because when something is not easy, when it's not straightforward, it requires us to grow clarity. It invites us to get clear on who we are and who we are not. It invites us to practice showing up as a higher version of ourselves. In this space, we talk about being your 1.0 self or your 2.0 self, and your 2.0 is that higher version of yourself. And so when we have a relationship or a marriage, and in this space, you don't need to be married. There are a lot of single people or divorced people or widowed people in this space. It's totally fine because we're all in relationship with ourselves and with other people. And the concepts that I teach you here work in every relationship. They even work in your business, okay? So when I know that whatever is happening in my relationship is happening for me, the difference is that I recognize that there's something in it for me to learn, that I'm showing up, and this is for me. This difficulty with my teenager, it's inviting me into a new place for my patience, a new place for me setting a boundary, for getting clarity on who I really am, for getting clarity on what I'm willing to commit to, right? When I feel like something's happening to me, we get overwhelmed and we're like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Right? That sort of response, which I know, none of this is about being perfect. You know, I'm 20 years married and have a 19-year-old here living with us. So who's my child? That's why he's living with us. But so I get it. It's not about being perfect, but it is about being engaged. Because when you're engaged and you're aware and you're awake and you're willing to be alert enough to reflect on what's happening, what that means is you will start changing and growing, and you're not going to be stuck in the same old place forever. We get stuck in these neural pathways, these habituated narrative spaces, because internally we've been playing them over and over and over again. Why does this keep happening? How come he's not listening to me? Why is she so angry? How come this is so hard? I don't want to have to deal with this, you know, whatever it might be. What happens is you've trained yourself so often to think those things, to feel those things, and your body reacts. You have these micro reactions, right, that come up, and you just go into this motion. It's like a script. It is a script. It's something that's so well known. And every time you go there, you're patterning that old behavior. You're strengthening it. And so if my perspective is, this is happening to me, this shouldn't be happening. As soon as I believe, and your beliefs are everything, as soon as I believe this should not be happening, then I'm in resistance. And if I'm in resistance, we're not going to create a solution. I'm not going to be in the part of my brain where I have access to things like creativity, compassion, empathy. None of that will be accessible. I will not be available to that because I'm in a state of resistance, a state of pushing away. Make sense? And so when we're able to shift and pivot, and this is what I do with the women whom I mentor, and I help them really excavate their belief systems, because your belief systems are everything. They run everything. And something so subtle as a belief that this is happening to me, it disempowers you. And you don't even maybe realize it's happening. And once you realize that's happening, then you can shift it into a belief that this is actually happening for me. Why would this happen for me? What is it that I have to learn here? What part of me do I not want to see? What part of me am I so habituated and conditioned in that I don't even see another option? What part of me is so practiced at doing it the same way that there literally doesn't seem like there's another solution? I cannot tell you how many times I've worked with somebody and they're like, there's no other way. There's nothing else I can do. This is it. This is all they see. They cannot see all of the opportunities over here. And the opportunities, please know, this isn't about like problem solving something. You know, I'm talking about the opportunities to show up in a different way. Because if I'm showing up in this way, and this is my belief, and even as I just am dramatizing it, right, you can feel that energy. You can feel that energy of like, this is never going to change. How come it's so hard? There's nothing else I can do. And you're totally locked into this. And when you're locked into this, you are inviting your partner to be locked into that partner script. So they also will be showing up in their old way of annoyance, or why is she bringing this up again, or rolling their eyes, or whatever it might be. And I'm writing a series of posts that I will be sharing this week about how to have much more successful conversations rather than having the same argument over and over again. So look for those starting on Monday. So if this is what I'm conditioned showing up in, right, it is imperative, if you ever want things to go differently, you have to learn how to feel and step in to something else wider, right? Something else over here. You have to learn how to do that. Otherwise, you will literally never get anything different. And part of opening the opportunity to be available to something else is recognizing this is happening for me, and it's happening over and over and over again because I have not learned how to do it differently. There's something else in this classroom of marriage, of relationship, of parenting, of having the particular parents that I have, whatever it might be. There's something in this classroom that I have not yet learned. I wonder what it could be. I wonder if I were to show up in a different emotional state, what that might be like. Who would I need to be to show up in a state of willingness, of openness, of curiosity, even when my partner is doing or saying something that normally would activate something old in me? What if I were to breathe and ground? One of the things that I teach the women who I mentor, they tease me about it sometimes, that I say, huh, is a full sentence. So when your partner shows up and has whatever it is that they have that they're saying to you, free to breathe and ground and say, huh, okay, huh, right? And feel what it feels like to be in that present moment, not in here, but over here. In a place where your shoulders are loose, maybe, in a place where you're breathing, where you can feel your heart, where you can feel your hips, where you can feel your feet on the ground, where there's a little bit of openness, even if you don't prefer what it is that they're saying, you don't agree with what they're saying, but if you can pivot into a posture of, huh, okay, right? There's a little bit of openness there. You're available now for something new because you have a new belief that this is happening for me. There's something in here that's for me. What could be for me? What's the opportunity that I have that I'm having a really hard time seeing? And quite honestly, it's one of the big pieces that I am of service to for women is that we're so conditioned to be in a particular place that we don't see out here. And to have somebody else mirror, like what else could I possibly be available for, right? It's like the light goes on. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was a complete sentence. And not a that's like an F-U, like, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a grounded, breathy, like, oh, okay. Like this is me staying with myself. This is me, if you follow any of what I teach and write, anchoring, grounding, right? Letting my energy go down here rather than go out here. Why is this happening to me, right? Because if I'm coming out here, then I'm defending. And if I'm defending, I'm showing up in a posture with whatever's happening is happening to me and I have to react, which is very different than showing up in a way where I am being responsible to respond, right? And when I respond, I'm being mindful about what I'm bringing to the situation because, ladies, you are powerful. You know you are tremendously powerful. And when we know how powerful we are more and more discerning about where it is that we align our power. And we recognize if we align our power in an old place of overwhelm, anger, contempt, anxiety, rejection, blame, the list goes on and on. No pleasure, scarcity, lack. If that's where I'm putting my power, that's what you're gonna get. It's just how it goes. I didn't make up the rules, I just teach about them, okay? And so when you learn to be available for something different, when you learn to be open to an experience of what is it that I have to learn in this situation? What is the situation mirroring for me that I'm having a hard time seeing? Who would I need to be in this moment to be grounded and resourceful enough to access an internal sense of patience, to access curiosity? Who would I need to be in this moment when my teenager is yelling at me, or my preteen? One of my graduates was talking about this in our graduate space, that she has a middle schooler, and she was like, holy moly, what happened to my child, well-behaved child, right? So who do I need to be in this moment with my middle schooler who's doing what they're doing? Who do I need to be? What am I being invited into? Oh, this is happening for me, not to me, rather than like, this is some nuisance that this shouldn't be happening. No, this is kind of how it goes in life. Like, welcome to life, right? Not because it's a terrible place, but because it's a growing place if we allow ourselves to be stretched. If every time the stretching happens, we push up against it, this shouldn't be happening, we are in for a lifetime of suffering. It's what's happening. Doesn't mean I like it, but it is what's happening. So how do I transform and grow through it and use it as an opportunity to be self-reflective rather than an opportunity to point out, right? None of this is to say that your partner doesn't have the places where they're responsible. They do, right? And that's part of being in mature, conscious relationship with someone, is that we collaborate around the rules of engagement of our marriage. Unfortunately, most of us haven't done that. And so we find ourselves together and then we're bumping around trying to figure it out, and we're reacting all the way through it. And so it ends up feeling like such a tug of war when it doesn't need to be, but it's just how it is that most of us learn. Most of us have to go through that first 10, 15 years of hell with each other. A lot of us do. I certainly did. And living in that tug of war space and feeling like your marriage is happening to you. Why is this person doing this to me? How come they're so mean to me? Why do they never listen to me, right? Why are they rejecting me? This is happening to me. And as you get older, wiser, more mature, more self-reflective, or you just, a lot of the women who I work with are in a state where they are middle-aged and they're looking at, do I stay or do I go? And considering, recognizing that there's some of their own work that they haven't done yet and that they want to, and they want to use that container, that classroom, to up-level themselves because they know that they haven't been bringing forward their best qualities, right? And I tend to work with women who are growth-oriented, and they want to be the higher version of themselves. They don't want to live being mediocre. Like, why not be remarkable? If you're going to do marriage, be remarkable. Doesn't mean you're not going to have bad days, but you can be remarkable even when you have bad days, right? You can give yourself an internal high five, like, I handled that. I was a ninja in that moment when I could have taken the bait and gotten all triggered and had the old conversation, but I didn't do that because I'm showing up in a different way, right? Holding ourselves to a higher standard, not because it's our fault, but because we get to, right? We get to. Because when we know more, we're responsible to do better. We're responsible to hold the bar higher for ourselves, and then other people see it. Our friends see it. So many of the women who I've worked with over the years tell me that, they changed tremendously in our 2 months together. And then they're hanging out and talking to their friends, and their friends are like, you're different. And they're hearing their friends differently. They're hearing their friends talk about their relationships happening to them. They hear their friends positioning themselves more as victims. They hear their friends, talking poorly about their partners and complaining. And my clients don't do that anymore. They stop. And when they hear themselves doing it, they're like, oh my gosh, that's not who I am. It's not who I want to be. It's not the highest version of me. Because they learn to put their power, their potency into that which will shift the situation rather than feeling like they need to be reacting and defending, shutting down and avoiding, engaging in conflict and making somebody wrong. If any of that was going to work to heal your marriage, your relationship, attract the person that you want to be with, it would have worked by now. So you can stop doing it. So I invite you to take on, maybe this is a challenge for you to consider as you go through the rest of your day, your week, and when you have those moments where you feel like you're in conflict with your partner, ask yourself, What does this have for me? What parts of me am I having a hard time seeing? Where is it that I want to default back into an old state? So I want you to pay attention to that and notice what it has for you. If you are someone who's listening to this and you feel moved and like I might want to have more of a conversation with you, then DM me and I'm happy to share more with you about what I do, ask you a few questions. If you're a good fit, we usually can get started in the same day or within a day or so. It's a real gift to have you here. It's a very important time for all of us to be showing up as a higher version of ourselves. So thanks so much for being here. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.